My brother was standing in the middle of my living room, holding up a set of keys like he had just won a prize. Behind him, gold and white balloons floated against the wall. A cardboard banner stretched over the fireplace in bright cursive letters. "Welcome home, Tyler and Savannah." The same fireplace I had paid to repair 3 winters ago. The same hardwood floor I had refinished with money from my overtime shifts. The same roof, the same windows, the same mortgage payment that had left my bank account every month for 7 years. But according to my parents, none of that mattered. My father stood beside Tyler with one hand proudly on his shoulder. My mother dabbed at the corner of her eye with a folded napkin, playing the emotional part perfectly. "This is what family is supposed to be," my father announced to the room. "A home should go to the son who will carry on the Bennett name." People clapped. My aunt smiled. My cousins raised their plastic cups. Savannah leaned into my brother's side, already glowing like a woman who had just been handed a life she never earned. I stood near the staircase holding a black trash bag full of my own clothes. My mother had given it to me 20 minutes earlier. "Just start with your closet," she whispered, as if she were asking me to help clean after dinner. "Savannah needs to measure the room for the nursery." "My room?" I asked. She looked at me with tired disappointment. "Claire, don't make this ugly. Your brother is starting a family. You can stay in the basement until you find somewhere more appropriate." More appropriate. For me, in my own house. Tyler grinned at me from across the room. "Come on, Claire. You don't even have kids. What do you need 3 bedrooms for?" Savannah laughed softly and added, "Besides, your office gets the best morning light. It'll be perfect for the baby." I did not scream. I did not throw the keys. I did not tell them that every nail, every tile, every payment, every tax bill had my name attached to it. I simply stood there, feeling the plastic handles of the trash bag cut into my fingers. Then my phone rang. The screen showed a number I recognized immediately. Hawthorne Federal Mortgage. I answered quietly. "Miss Bennett," a woman said. "This is Angela Morris from Hawthorne Federal Mortgage. We're calling to confirm whether you authorized a transfer request on your property at 417 Maple Ridge Lane." My eyes moved slowly across the room, to the banner, to the balloons, to my brother holding my keys. "My property?" I asked. "Yes, ma'am," she said. "Our records show you are the sole borrower, sole title holder, and legal owner of the home." The room was still clapping when I tapped the speaker button. Then I looked straight at my father and said, "That's strange, because 5 minutes ago my parents gave this house to my brother." Before I tell you how that one phone call destroyed my parents' favorite son, exposed 7 years of lies, and left my mother crying on the porch of the house she tried to steal from me, you need to understand why I bought that house in the first place. 7 years earlier, 417 Maple Ridge Lane was not a family house. It was my house. I still remember the first time I stood on the cracked front walkway with the realtor beside me, staring up at the pale blue siding and the maple tree bending over the roof like it was trying to protect the place from the world. The house was not perfect. The gutters sagged. The kitchen cabinets were outdated. The upstairs carpet smelled faintly of dust and old dog. But when I stepped inside and saw the morning light spilling across the living room floor, something in my chest loosened. For the first time in my life, I saw a place that did not belong to my parents, my brother, or anyone else who believed my life should be arranged around their needs. It was mine. I was 27 years old, working as a financial records supervisor at St. Anne's Medical Center in Columbus, Ohio. It was not glamorous work, but I was good at it. I knew how to read numbers, how to spot missing payments, how to find patterns other people ignored. I worked 10-hour days, picked up weekend overtime, packed lunches instead of ordering out, and drove the same dented silver Toyota I had bought used after college. While other people my age were taking beach vacations and posting engagement photos, I was saving for a down payment. My mother used to call it obsessive. "Claire, honey," she would say, stirring sugar into her coffee at our old kitchen table. "You don't have to act like you're all alone in the world." But that was the strange thing about my family. They hated when I acted independent, yet they depended on me for everything. My younger brother, Tyler, never had to learn the difference. Tyler was 3 years younger than me and had somehow spent his entire life being treated like a future king whose crown had simply been delayed by circumstance. When he crashed his first car, my parents called it a learning experience. When I got a flat tire at 19, my father told me I should have checked the pressure. When Tyler dropped out of community college, Mom said he was finding himself. When I paid my own tuition through scholarships and hospital billing work, Dad said I had always been low maintenance. That phrase followed me like a curse. Low maintenance meant I did not need help. Low maintenance meant I could wait. Low maintenance meant my disappointments were smaller, my emergencies less urgent, my dreams more negotiable. So when the bank approved my mortgage, I did not tell my parents right away. I sat in my car outside the office with the approval letter shaking in my hands and cried so hard I had to pull down the visor mirror to fix my mascara before driving back to work. Not because I was scared, because I had finally done something no one could take from me. Or so I thought. The closing day was a rainy Thursday in October. I signed my name so many times my wrist ached. The title officer smiled and slid the keys across the table. "Congratulations, Miss Bennett," she said. "You're officially a homeowner." I held those keys like they were proof of my existence. For 8 months, I lived alone in that house, and those 8 months were the quietest, happiest months I had ever known. I painted the kitchen soft gray. I turned the smallest bedroom into a home office. I bought a second-hand dining table and sanded it down myself. Every repair felt like a promise. Every mortgage payment felt like a brick added to the wall between me and the version of my life where I was only useful when someone else needed rescuing. Then my father lost his job. The official story was that the company downsized. The version my mother whispered to me later was that Dad had gotten into a shouting match with his supervisor after refusing to take instruction from a man half his age. Either way, the result was the same. Their rent was late. Their savings were gone. Tyler was conveniently between opportunities again. My mother called me on a Tuesday night, crying so hard I could barely understand her. "Claire, we just need somewhere for a little while," she said. 3 months, maybe 4. Your father is humiliated. Please don't make him ask." I stood in my new kitchen, looking at the clean counters, the quiet hallway, the life I had barely begun to build. "Mom," I said carefully, "I only have 3 bedrooms." "That's more than enough," she replied quickly, as if she had already measured the space in her mind. "Your father and I can take the guest room. Tyler can use the other room until he gets back on his feet." "My office?" I asked. She sighed, disappointed already. "Claire, family helps family." There it was, the sentence that had unlocked every sacrifice I had ever made, so I said yes. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself decent daughters did not let their parents struggle when they had space. I told myself Tyler would find work, Dad would calm down, Mom would stop crying, and soon my house would feel like mine again. They moved in that weekend. My father carried 1 box through the front door, looked around the living room, and said, "Well, it's not fancy, but it'll do." My mother kissed my cheek and said, "You're saving this family, Claire." Tyler dropped his duffel bag in my office and asked for the Wi-Fi password. 3 months became 6. 6 became a year. And somewhere between the second Christmas and the third unpaid utility bill, my parents stopped calling it my house. They started calling it home. Then, eventually, they started calling it the family home. The first time my father said it in front of a neighbor, I corrected him gently, "Dad, it's my house." He laughed like I had told a childish joke. "Oh, don't be dramatic," he said. "You're our daughter. What's yours is family." I should have understood then. That was not gratitude. It was a warning. By the 7th year, my parents had rewritten the history of 417 Maple Ridge Lane so many times that even they seemed to believe their own lie. In their version, I had not bought the house alone. I had merely helped secure it. I had not paid the mortgage every month. I was contributing. They had not moved in because they were broke and desperate. They had brought the family together under one roof. And Tyler somehow had become the person the house was always waiting for. He was 31 by then, still allergic to steady employment, but recently married to Savannah, a woman with glossy hair, sharp nails, and the unshakable confidence of someone who had never been told no by anyone who mattered. She posted everything online, her coffee, her outfits, her marriage journey, even staged photos of herself standing on my front porch with captions like, "New chapter loading." The first time I saw one of those posts, I stared at my phone for a full minute. My porch, my maple tree, my front door. New chapter loading. I should have said something then. But I had spent years training myself to swallow small insults because reacting to them only made my mother sigh and say I was too sensitive. So when Mom announced a Sunday dinner, I already felt the warning in my stomach. "Just family," she said over the phone. Nothing stressful. But when I came home that evening, the driveway was full. My uncle's truck was parked crooked near the curb. My aunt's sedan blocked the mailbox. Tyler's black SUV sat in the best spot near the garage like he already owned the place. Through the front windows, I could see people moving around my living room, laughing, drinking, making themselves comfortable. Inside, the dining table had been extended with 2 folding tables. My mother had brought out her good serving dishes, the ones she never used unless she wanted witnesses. Savannah was standing by the kitchen island with a leather binder tucked under her arm. Tyler was leaning against the counter, grinning like a man waiting for applause. I looked at the binder. Savannah noticed. "Oh," she said brightly, tapping the cover, "just some ideas. Nothing official yet." Ideas for what? I wanted to ask. But my father came in from the dining room and clapped his hands together. "Claire, good. You're here. Try not to disappear into your room tonight. This dinner is important." "My room?" I said. He gave me a look. "Don't start." That was always how it began. I would ask a normal question, and somehow I was already the problem. Dinner was loud, crowded, and strange. People complimented the roast my mother had made in my kitchen. My aunt praised the beautiful home Frank and Linda had kept together. My father accepted the compliment with a proud nod. I set my fork down. "Actually," I said, keeping my voice light, "I'm the one who—" My mother touched my wrist under the table, hard enough to stop me. "Not tonight," she whispered. Across from me, Savannah smiled. After dessert, my father stood and tapped his spoon against his glass. The room quieted immediately. My mother folded her hands in front of her mouth like she was about to hear something sacred, though I could tell from her face she already knew every word. "I want to thank everyone for being here," Dad began. "Family means legacy. It means sacrifice. It means knowing when something is bigger than one person." My chest tightened. He looked at Tyler. "Your mother and I have spent a lot of time praying and talking about the future, and we've decided it's time this home passed to the next generation." For a moment, no one moved. Then my father put his hand on Tyler's shoulder. "We're giving the house to Tyler and Savannah." The room erupted. My aunt gasped. Someone clapped. Savannah covered her mouth like she had not been carrying paint samples in her binder all evening. Tyler hugged my father, then my mother, then pulled Savannah against him as if they had just been handed keys at a closing office. I sat perfectly still. My ears rang so loudly that the applause sounded underwater. Finally, I asked, "What house?" My father's smile hardened. "This house, Claire." I looked around the table, waiting for someone to laugh, waiting for someone to say this was a misunderstanding. No one did. I turned to my mother. "You mean my house?" Her eyes filled with instant tears, the kind she could summon whenever my boundaries inconvenienced her. "Please don't embarrass us," she whispered. Tyler let out a short laugh. "Come on, Claire, don't make this weird." "Tyler," I said slowly, "you know I bought this house." He shrugged. "You signed some papers. Mom and Dad made it a home." That sentence landed harder than a slap. Savannah opened her binder and slid a page toward me. It was a printed floor plan of the upstairs. My office was circled in pink. "We were thinking nursery here," she said. "And your bedroom could be a guest room eventually, once you transition out." "Transition out," I repeated. Dad reached behind him and picked up a folder from the sideboard. He dropped it in front of me. "Your mother and I had something drafted," he said. "Nothing complicated, just a family property transition agreement." I opened the folder. The first line made my blood go cold. "I, Claire Ann Bennett, acknowledge that 417 Maple Ridge Lane has functioned as shared family property and voluntarily agree to relinquish primary residential claim." I stopped reading. "This is not a transfer document," I said. Dad leaned forward. "It's a start. It says I agree not to seek reimbursement for prior payments." "That's because family doesn't nickel and dime family," he snapped. I looked at the pen beside the folder. Gold, heavy, placed there before I even came home. You planned this, I said. Mom began crying softly. Tyler shook his head in disgust. Unbelievable. One time we need you to be happy for me and you turn it into a legal drama. I closed the folder. I'm not signing this tonight. The room went silent. My father's face darkened. You don't trust your own parents? I looked at the man who had just tried to give away a house he did not own. No, I said quietly. Not anymore. I stood and walked upstairs before my voice could break. Halfway down the hall, I heard Savannah whisper to Tyler below. Don't worry. Once she signs, we'll change the locks. I stopped with my hand on the banister, and for the first time in 7 years, I did not feel guilty. I felt awake. I barely slept that night. The house was quiet by midnight, but not peaceful. Quiet had a sound when resentment lived under the same roof. It was in the soft creak of the hallway outside my door, in the low murmur of my parents speaking downstairs after they thought I had gone to bed, in the occasional laugh from Tyler and Savannah's room where they were probably planning where to put furniture they had not bought for a house they did not own. I sat at my desk with the so-called family property transition agreement spread open in front of me. Every line was worse than the last. It did not transfer the house, not legally. But it was written to make me look like someone who had already agreed the house was never fully mine. It called my 7 years of mortgage payments voluntary household contributions. It called my parents primary family occupants. It described Tyler and Savannah as intended long-term residential successors. Residential successors. I almost laughed. My father had always hated paperwork when it protected me. But apparently, when paperwork could be twisted into a weapon against me, he suddenly believed in documents. I took photos of every page with my phone. Then I emailed them to myself, uploaded them to a cloud folder, and put the original back exactly where Dad had left it on the dining room sideboard. At 6:15 the next morning, I walked downstairs in my work clothes. My mother was already in the kitchen, standing at my coffee maker like she owned that too. She looked at me with swollen eyes and a wounded expression, as if I had been the one who betrayed everyone at dinner. You hurt your father last night, she said. I poured coffee into my travel mug. Dad tried to make me sign away my home. She closed her eyes. You always make everything sound so ugly. No, I said. I just said it plainly. Her face tightened. She was not used to that from me. Tyler came in wearing sweatpants and a smug expression. Savannah followed him, scrolling through her phone. Morning, landlord, Tyler said, dragging out the word like an insult. Savannah smiled without looking up. For now. I looked at both of them, waited 1 full second, and walked out without answering. That was the first small victory. By the time I reached St. Anne's Medical Center, my hands had stopped shaking. Work had always been the one place where numbers made sense, where records told the truth if you knew how to read them. I settled into my office, logged into the billing system, and tried to focus on overdue patient accounts. At 10:12 a.m., my cell phone rang. The number on the screen made my stomach tighten. Hawthorne Federal Mortgage. I answered and closed my office door. This is Claire Bennett. Miss Bennett, this is Angela Morris from Hawthorne Federal Mortgage, a calm female voice said. I'm calling regarding the property at 417 Maple Ridge Lane. My fingers went cold around the phone. Yes, we received a request yesterday afternoon for a payoff statement and an ownership transfer packet. Before we release any documents, we need to verify authorization with the borrower of record. I slowly sat down. Who made the request? There was a pause, the sound of typing. A Mr. Frank Bennett contacted our servicing department. He identified himself as your father and stated he was your authorized family representative. A strange stillness moved through me. Not shock, confirmation. And is he authorized on my account? I asked. No, ma'am, Angela replied. You are the sole borrower on the mortgage. Our records also indicate you are the sole title holder based on the deed information attached to the loan file. I closed my eyes. For 7 years I had carried that mortgage alone. For 7 years my parents had let everyone believe they had some claim to what I was paying for, but hearing a stranger say the truth out loud nearly broke something open inside me. Did he ask anything else? I said. Angela hesitated. He asked whether a family agreement could be used to remove your name from the mortgage if you were unwilling to cooperate. The room seemed to shrink. I looked through the glass wall of my office at people moving through the hospital hallway with clipboards, coffee cups, and ordinary problems. My father had not been embarrassed last night. He had been delayed. "What did you tell him?" I asked. I explained that no one can remove you from a mortgage, transfer title, refinance, sell, or pledge the property without your consent and proper legal documentation. And then, he asked for the payoff amount anyway. I wrote that down. My handwriting looked too neat for the situation. "Miss Morris," I said carefully, "I need you to place a verbal password on my mortgage account. No information is to be released to anyone except me, not my father, not my mother, not my brother. No one." "Of course," she said. Her voice softened slightly. "Would you also like us to flag the account for potential fraud?" Fraud. There it was, the word my family had forced into my life. "Yes," I said, "flag it." After I hung up, I did not cry. I opened my laptop and pulled up the county recorder's website. My hands moved with the trained precision of someone who had spent years finding what other people hoped would stay buried. I searched my address. The deed was exactly as I remembered. Claire Ann Bennett, sole owner. Then I saw a pending electronic submission attached to the property record. Unrecorded, under review, document type, quitclaim deed. My pulse slowed in a terrifying way. I clicked the preview. There was my name, there was my address, and at the bottom of the page there was my signature. Only I had never signed it. The signature had been copied. I could tell immediately. It was too clean, too flat, with the strange pixelated edges of something scanned from an old document and pasted where it did not belong. For a long moment I stared at it. Then I thought about every time my mother had rushed me through paperwork. Insurance forms, medical releases, tax documents she claimed Dad did not understand. "Just sign here, honey. I'll fill in the rest." My mouth went dry. I picked up the phone and called Nathan Reed, the real estate attorney who had handled my closing 7 years earlier. He answered on the third ring. "Nathan," I said, my voice steady in a way that did not feel human. "Someone in my family forged my signature on a quitclaim deed." The friendliness left his voice immediately. "Claire, listen to me very carefully," he said. "Do not confront them. Do not sign anything. Do not move out, and whatever you do, do not let them know you know." I looked again at the forged signature on my screen. Then I opened a new folder on my desktop and named it with the only word that made sense: evidence. When I pulled into the driveway that evening, Tyler's SUV was parked in my spot. Not near my spot. In it. The small rectangular space beside the garage where I had parked every day for 7 years was occupied by his oversized black vehicle, polished so perfectly it reflected the porch lights like a mirror. He had not done it by accident. Tyler never noticed bills, deadlines, or responsibilities, but he always noticed territory. So I parked on the street in front of my own house. I sat there for a moment with both hands on the steering wheel, staring through the windshield at the warm glow coming from my kitchen windows. From outside, it looked like a family home, safe, ordinary, loved. Inside, people were planning to steal it. Nathan's voice echoed in my head. "Do not confront them. Do not sign anything. Do not move out. Do not let them know you know." I took one slow breath, gathered my purse, and walked inside. The first thing I heard was Savannah laughing upstairs. The second thing I heard was my mother saying, "Claire?" Her voice came from the living room, soft and warning. I ignored it and climbed the stairs. At the top of the hallway, my bedroom door was wide open. Savannah stood in the center of my room with a yellow measuring tape stretched across the wall. Tyler was crouched by the window holding one end of it. A stack of paint swatches sat on my dresser. Pale sage, cream white, soft peach. My framed college diploma had been moved from the wall and leaned face down against the floor. On my nightstand, there was a folded sheet of paper with Savannah's handwriting across the top. Nursery plan. I stood in the doorway. Savannah turned and gave me a smile so bright it almost looked rehearsed. "Oh, you're home early," she said. "We were just getting some measurements." For my bedroom, her smile flickered. Tyler stood up, already annoyed. "Don't start, Claire." I looked at the measuring tape in his hand. "You're measuring my room. Our future nursery," Savannah corrected lightly. "Your mom said you were going to be reasonable once you had time to calm down." I looked at my diploma on the floor. Something inside me went very quiet. That needs to go back on the wall, I said. Savannah glanced down. Oh, I didn't want it damaged when we repaint. When you repaint, I repeated. Tyler threw the measuring tape onto the bed. You know what your problem is? You hide behind paperwork and technicalities because you can't stand anyone else being happy. Paperwork and technicalities, the mortgage, the deed, the tax records, the fraud alert, the forged quitclaim deed sitting under review at the county office. All technicalities, apparently. I walked to the dresser, picked up my diploma, and set it carefully on the bed. This room is not being painted, I said. This house is not being transferred, and neither of you has permission to touch anything that belongs to me. Tyler laughed. Permission? Listen to yourself. Savannah crossed her arms. Claire, we're trying to make space for a baby. That should matter more than your little office setup and framed certificates. Before I could answer, my father's voice boomed from the hallway. Enough. He appeared behind me with my mother at his side. Mom's eyes were already wet. Dad's jaw was tight, the way it always got when he believed volume could replace ownership. You are making this family miserable, he said. No, I replied. I am stopping you from taking what isn't yours. His face darkened. My mother stepped forward. Claire, please. Your brother and Savannah are starting a family. You're alone. You're stable. You're strong. There it was again. Strong. The word they used when they wanted to take something from me without feeling guilty. So because I'm strong, I said slowly, I'm supposed to lose my bedroom? Mom's lips trembled. Don't twist my words. Because I'm stable, I'm supposed to lose my house? Dad pointed toward the stairs. You can stay in the basement for now. No one is throwing you out tonight. Tonight. The word landed exactly where he meant it to. I looked at each of them one by one. My father, furious that I would not obey. My mother, wounded that her tears were no longer working. Tyler, smug and impatient. Savannah, already imagining curtains and crib placement. I wanted to tell them about Hawthorne Federal Mortgage. I wanted to tell them about the fraud flag. I wanted to ask my father how he had enjoyed pretending to be my authorized representative. But I did not. I picked up the paint swatches from my dresser, walked to the trash can, and dropped them inside. Then I said, everyone out of my room. For a moment, no one moved. Then my father grabbed Tyler's arm and pulled him toward the hallway. Savannah stared at me like I had slapped her. My mother whispered my name once, soft and disappointed. I closed the door in their faces and locked it. The next day, they escalated. I came home from work just after 6 and found that my key would not turn in the front door. At first, I thought I was tired. I pulled it out, checked the teeth, and tried again. Nothing. The lock had been changed. A new black video doorbell blinked at me from the frame. A few seconds later, Savannah's voice came through the speaker. Sorry, Claire. We needed boundaries. My hand tightened around the key. My key doesn't work. I know, she said. Your parents agreed it would be healthier if you stayed somewhere else while we all cooled down. I stared at the door I had paid for. Then I called the police. When the officers arrived, my father came outside wearing his most wounded expression. He told them it was a family misunderstanding. He said I was emotional. He said grief and jealousy had made me unstable. I opened my phone and showed the officer the deed. Claire Ann Bennett, sole owner. The officer looked at the screen, then at my father. Sir, he said, you cannot lock the legal owner out of her own residence. Tyler's face went pale behind the glass. 5 minutes later, I walked back into my house and found my clothes, books, files, and framed photographs stuffed into black trash bags at the bottom of the stairs. That was the moment the last piece of guilt died. I stepped over the bags, walked into the bathroom, locked the door, and called Nathan. I want them out, I said. His voice was calm. All of them? I looked at the trash bags full of my life. Yes, I said, all of them. Nathan Reed did not waste time. By 8 the next morning, I was sitting across from him in his downtown office with a cardboard box at my feet and 7 years of my life stacked inside it. Mortgage statements, property tax receipts, home insurance policies, bank records, contractor invoices, the receipt for the roof repair, the invoice for the water heater, the closing documents from the day I bought 417 Maple Ridge Lane. Proof. That was what my life had become. Not memories, not sacrifices, not late nights sitting at the kitchen table with a calculator trying to make sure I could cover the mortgage and still help my mother with groceries. proof. Nathan spread the documents across his conference table with the calm, precise movements of a surgeon preparing for an operation. He did not look shocked. That almost made me feel worse. I wanted someone to say no parent could do this. I wanted someone to tell me this was unbelievable. Instead, Nathan adjusted his glasses and said, "This is stronger than I expected." I let out a humorless laugh. "That's good, right?" "It's good legally," he said. "Emotionally, I'm guessing it feels terrible." I looked down at a mortgage statement from 3 years earlier, February, the same month my father had told my uncle that he was letting me live at home until I figured myself out. I had paid $1,684.23 that month. On time. "Yeah," I said quietly. "It feels terrible." Nathan tapped the copy of the forged quitclaim deed. "We need a handwriting expert, but even at a glance, this signature looks lifted from another document." "My mother used to have me sign things for insurance," I said. "Medical forms, tax forms, anything," she said Dad didn't understand. Nathan's mouth tightened. "Do you have copies?" "Some, not all." "Find what you can." So I did. For the next 2 days, I became someone my family would not have recognized. I stopped explaining. I stopped defending myself. I stopped reacting when Tyler made comments under his breath or when Savannah sighed loudly every time I entered my own kitchen. I documented everything. When Savannah texted me, "We already ordered nursery furniture, so you need to make a decision soon," I screenshotted it. When Tyler wrote, "Mom said you always cave eventually," I saved it. When my mother sent, "Please don't make me cry in front of everyone again. Just sign the paper and keep peace in this family," I forwarded it to Nathan. And when my father cornered me in the hallway and said, "You're making a mistake you can't afford," I turned my phone's recorder on inside my cardigan pocket. "You changed my locks," I said. "You forced our hand. You tried to file a deed with my signature." His eyes narrowed. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Then explain it." He stepped closer. His voice dropped into something low and ugly. "Let me explain something to you, Claire. Courts cost money. Lawyers cost money. Time costs money. You think because your name is on a few papers, that makes you powerful? It doesn't. It makes you stubborn." I kept my face still. "And the signature?" I asked. Dad smiled. Not warmly. Not like a father. Like a man who thought he had already won. "Real or not, once paperwork starts moving, people like you get scared. You always do." That sentence became the cleanest piece of evidence he ever gave me. I sent the recording to Nathan within 5 minutes. His reply came back almost instantly. "Do not engage further. We file tomorrow." But the worst discovery came that afternoon. Nathan called while I was sitting in my car outside the hospital eating a protein bar because I had been too nauseous for lunch. "Claire," he said, "did you authorize any contractor estimates for major renovations?" "No." "Did you authorize Tyler or Savannah to seek financing for renovations?" My stomach sank. "No." Nathan exhaled. "I have a copy of a preliminary application from a contractor-affiliated lender. Tyler and Savannah requested a renovation loan package for the property." I closed my eyes. "How?" "They represented that a family transfer was pending. They listed the house as future collateral." Future collateral? For a house they did not own. "What were they planning to do?" I asked. "Kitchen demolition, new flooring, nursery expansion, patio build-out, pool installation." I almost laughed at the pool. They were not just stealing shelter, they were decorating the theft. That night, my father called another family meeting. This time, I did not argue. I stood in the living room while he performed for my relatives like a betrayed patriarch. "Claire is trying to throw her own parents into the street," he announced. My mother cried into a tissue. Tyler shook his head in wounded disgust. Savannah placed one hand over her stomach and whispered to my aunt that stress was bad for the baby. Then Savannah looked at me and said, "Some women just can't stand watching someone else build the life they never had." The room went quiet. For 1 second, pain moved through me so sharply I almost lost my breath. Then I remembered the deed. The mortgage, the forged signature, the recording. I looked at Savannah and said nothing. People who lie too much eventually hand you the knife. The next morning, Nathan filed for emergency relief. By noon, legal notices were served. Cease and desist. Notice to vacate. Fraud preservation demand. Civil complaint pending. Tyler texted me 5 minutes later. "You're really suing your own family over a house?" I stared at the message for a long time before typing back. No, I'm protecting my home from people who tried to steal it. Then I turned off my phone, because the next day, Tyler and Savannah were throwing their housewarming party anyway. And this time, I was ready. The housewarming party started at 6. By 5:30, my driveway was already full of cars. From the street, 417 Maple Ridge Lane looked festive. Gold and white balloons framed the front porch. A bright banner hung over the fireplace inside, visible through the living room window. Welcome home, Tyler and Savannah. I sat in my car across the street for a full minute, watching strangers walk through my front door carrying gift bags, wine bottles, and wrapped picture frames. They smiled as if they were entering a celebration instead of the scene of a crime. My phone buzzed. Nathan? We're 10 minutes out. I typed back one word. Good. Then I got out of the car. The moment I stepped inside, the room shifted. Not enough for everyone to notice, but enough for my family to feel it. My mother saw me first. She was standing beside the dining table, arranging cupcakes on a silver tray she had pulled from my cabinet. Her face tightened. Claire, she whispered, hurrying toward me. Please don't do this tonight. I looked past her at Tyler, who stood in the middle of the living room wearing a new blazer and the pleased expression of a man who had mistaken theft for victory. Savannah was beside him in a cream-colored dress, one hand resting dramatically over her stomach, while she showed my aunt a sample board of nursery colors. My father crossed the room with heavy steps. If you embarrass this family, he said under his breath, you will regret it. I looked at him calmly. Dad, I said, you already embarrassed this family. I'm just bringing the paperwork. His eyes flashed, but before he could answer, Tyler raised a glass. Everyone, he called out, grinning. Savannah and I just want to thank you for being here. Mom and Dad have done something incredible for us. They've given us a place to build our future. People clapped. Savannah wiped at her eyes. My mother began crying for real this time, but not from joy. She knew something was wrong. She could feel it. Mothers always knew when their old tricks stopped working. Tyler lifted a set of keys. The room cheered. And then my phone rang. The sound cut through the applause like a blade. I looked down. Hawthorne Federal Mortgage. I answered and tapped speaker. This is Claire Bennett. Ms. Bennett, this is Angela Morris from Hawthorne Federal Mortgage, the woman said. I'm calling to confirm the fraud flag placed on your account and to verify that no transfer, refinance, payoff authorization, or title-related request should be processed for 417 Maple Ridge Lane unless initiated directly by you. The room went quiet one layer at a time. First the relatives, then the neighbors, then Tyler. My father's face drained of color. I said clearly, that is correct. Angela continued, professional and calm. For the record, our file lists you as the sole borrower connected to the mortgage. The deed information in our system also identifies you as the sole legal owner of the property. Savannah's hand dropped from her stomach. Tyler laughed once, sharp and nervous. Claire, turn that off. I looked at him. Why? I asked. Everyone came to celebrate your new house. They should know who owns it. The front door opened behind me. Nathan Reed stepped inside in a dark suit carrying a leather folder. Beside him was a process server holding 4 sealed envelopes. My father took one step back. Nathan's voice was calm enough to freeze the room. Frank Bennett, Linda Bennett, Tyler Bennett, Savannah Bennett, you are being served with formal notice regarding attempted property fraud, unlawful lockout, interference with ownership rights, and preservation of evidence connected to a forged quitclaim deed. Savannah gasped. Forged? Tyler turned to my father. What is he talking about? For the first time in my life, my father had no speech prepared. Nathan handed him the envelope. You are also receiving a notice to vacate, he said. No one here has ownership interest in this property. No one has authority to change locks, pledge the home as collateral, renovate, transfer, refinance, or occupy against Miss Bennett's consent. My mother started sobbing. Claire, please, she said. We're your parents. I looked at her, and for a second, I saw every version of myself that had once believed that sentence was a debt. The daughter who paid bills quietly, the sister who gave up rooms, the woman who swallowed insults because peace was cheaper than truth. Then I looked at the banner above my fireplace. Welcome home, Tyler and Savannah. No, I said softly. You were my parents when you needed shelter. You were my parents when I paid the mortgage. You were my parents when I fixed the roof over your heads. But the moment you forged my signature, changed my locks, and threw my life into trash bags, you became people trying to steal from me." Tyler's face twisted. "You're really choosing a house over your family?" I turned to him. "No, Tyler, you chose my house over your sister." Savannah grabbed his arm. "You told me this was settled." Tyler looked at Dad. "You told me it was yours." My father stared at the floor, and that silence told the truth better than any confession. 30 days later, they were gone. The house was quiet again, but it was not the same quiet as before. This time, it did not feel lonely. It felt clean. I sold 417 Maple Ridge Lane 6 months later for more than the asking price. I bought a smaller house near a lake 2 states away with 1 bedroom, 1 office, and locks no one in my family had keys to. The mortgage company called me the owner that night. But the truth was, I had always owned more than the house. I owned the payments, the sacrifices, the silence, the years they dismissed. And when I finally stopped begging my family to see my worth, I realized something they should have feared from the beginning. The woman who pays the mortgage also holds the keys.